When it comes to success, when it comes to wealth, how much do you think a proportion of that is attributed to mindset versus anything else?
Man, I would cringe if I was listening to what I'm about to say because uh when you are not successful and you hear an answer like this, your knee-jerk reaction is to blow it off. But I literally think that success is like 95% the way you think and not the tactics. And I think in terms of like building wealth, I have an assumption right now. If you want to become financially free, I assume you already know the following. One, you need to make money. Two, you need to save more than you spend. And three, you need to invest that money for your future self, right? I think you've heard this before and you already know it. Then why is it that we complain about our current income and we don't seek other ways when they're easily a Google search away? Why is it that instead of saving more than we spend, we increase our cost of living and continue to buy nicer stuff that we don't need to impress people we don't even know? And three, why don't we invest for our future self? Because and instead we just spend all the money that we have. Why? It's because we're not thinking rich. It's because we're not thinking the right way. So I really think the way you think about money, success, sales, business matters way more important than tactics because I assume you actually already know the tactics.
It's funny because I've had previous conversations around that, and we've also have that cringe factor. We're like, really? We're just gonna say it's mindset. And the longer I've been into this, the more that I start putting a higher percentage to that number. So your 95 doesn't sound crazy to me, but it's frustrating to hear because one of the ways you could interpret that is like, okay, well, all I have to do is like build a vision board, sit and meditate on some abundance mindset thing, and then everything will magically come to me. Is this the law of attraction? Is that what you're telling me? But I feel there's a nuance to, considering mindset and what types of actions you take based on that mindset. And I might want to ask you to add to that so that people who might have initially brushed off that comment, we can reel them back in and realize, what does this really mean?
Well, I think, this is sales oriented, but I think I like to operate from a point. This is how when I started to first believe in this vision and getting clear on my goals that one day I would like to own my time. One day I would like to wake up in a world where I don't have to go to work. I don't have to do anything because I have bought back my time. And this is how I define financial freedom is to do whatever you'd like to do, whenever you like to do it, wherever you like to do it. That to me is my financial freedom. Once I realized that, I thought of like, um, now everything I'm doing is I have to align it towards that goal. And I think in terms of like that having your future vision, like it's very important to have that clarity because then it makes the tactics you'll be more consistent on executing on your tactics if you have a clear vision in mind versus feeling like it's a chore or a task or something you don't want to do. Because sometimes in terms of like sales, I feel like I'm as an entrepreneur, I think all of us are in sales. Even not as an entrepreneur, I was always in sales. You're always selling something, whether you like to admit it or not. But when you have that vision of like, what is the future state? Why are you selling? I think that helps like you execute the tactics and become more successful. And then I think the last thing on specifically a money like I today I don't have to sell, but I continue to sell. Just launched my book. I didn't have to do. I'm not operating on a place of I need. I'm operating at a place of I want. So I sold my book and we hit a bestsellers list and I wanted to sell as many books as I can. And to me, I'm operating from a mindset of like abundance and want, and I'm doing it because of I have financial freedom, but it's my choice. Again, that's the best place I think to operate in versus like I have to do this. It's more of I need. And again, having that freedom, I think, in that switch of a mindset makes me really feel passionate about like what I'm doing and aligning myself. Like I feel really authentic. Whatever it is I'm selling, I know I'm doing it because I truly want to be here. And I think that's a great place to aim for if you're not right now.
Yeah, 100%. And when you're coming from the place of being needy, now you're not selling to offer value. It's almost like you're just doing it in a selfish intent. And you can smell the selfish salesperson, right? Like when you're selling and it's not in the best interest of the others, it already sabotages your own sale. And so perhaps one tip you would have, because it sounds like when you have a base financially, it's much easier to come from a place of abundance. And sometimes when it's like, hey, bills are coming up, this is a struggle. It could make it so that you feel like you need to be selfish, or at least the situation is forcing you to be in that kind of place. But I'd be curious to know what you would add to that, because you've also done some very interesting experiments to change your own equation of income and expenses.
Definitely. But I want to make clear, I'm 35. When I hit 33, I hit in this term what they call fat fire. That's it. FIRE is abbreviation for financial independence, retire early. And fat is, there's different like types of FIRE. It's like, for example, you could be financially independent right now. Just go live on the streets, right? Is that like you have no responsibilities? So fat FIRE is basically living your dream life, all your expenses, all the things you want, house, being able to travel, not having any limits, and then your money makes enough money that it pays for everything. So that's happening when I was 33. But so I wanted to say that because that I'm only 35 now. So I've only experienced this state of abundance, like true abundance, 2 years. So the majority of my career, since I started working, I didn't have this. I didn't operate from this standpoint. I operated out of need, but instead of need, I'll change the word. I operated at a place of desire. I had this desire that fueled everything I did. And I worked really crappy jobs. I worked in restaurants. I worked at a call center. I started on YouTube, posting videos for 2 years, trying to sell, teaching people how to dance the robot. And it took me 2 years to make 45 cents. So that, like, why does someone continue to go through the hurt and the grind? I think you need some type of fuel and need, even though I did need the money because I was broke, I still didn't operate from that standpoint. I operated from desire. And I know I feel like some people like to paint a picture of their past like they were always this killer machine and everything they touched turned into gold. That was not me. It took me 5 years from like trying to teach people how to dance online to go full time, but I still operate at desire. And the only reason I can say this for sure is because I started journaling back in 2010. And in my journal entries, I don't operate, and I've never complained that I don't have enough. I'm always like, I speak from a place of desire. Like I cannot wait one day if I keep doing what I'm doing right now. I know it's not working and I'm not making the money I want, but I know if I stay on this path, like I operate from optimism, desire. So I think those are, again, healthy places to operate. And the whole abundance thing, it's only been 2 years for me. So this is still very, very new. And then in terms of like, I think things that helped me become more successful and why I don't believe I ever operate out of like, oh my gosh, I need to make this sale or I can't pay rent. Because that, again, some people might say that's the great place to operate in because you have to. But for me, that sounds very stressful. And so one thing, a super like, untalked about skill set that I feel even to this day I have is that I've always lived way below my means. And where I got really popular online, this is like now I'm already a multimillionaire, and I actually lived in a van for a year with my wife as an extreme minimalist. And it's because I think and I actually don't know where you're originally from, but you live in Bali. And I think this is why I encourage Americans to travel and live elsewhere, because Americans and other people, they get really attached to their stuff. And like this idea that you are your stuff, almost your identity is wrapped into it. But as a minimalist, I feel like you believe the opposite, that the more stuff you own, it owns you. And like if you could live in a world with very low cost of living, then you can still operate from a place of abundance because you don't need to pay, your $2,000 car payment and your $8,000 mortgage. And now, your extremely high cost of living, where like you could actually live with a fraction of that. And then you can already operate from abundance because you're already making more than you need. And I chose to live in a van when I was making 7 figures a year. Like it was a choice, not because I had to. So I think, once you detach yourself from like consumerism a little bit, I think it's a great sales advantage because then you can really focus on your craft.
Thank you so much for listening to the Selling with Love podcast. We have some previous episodes you can tune into right here. And if you prefer the short form content where you get to the point in under 10 minutes, we do have a ton of clips from our best episodes that are being shared on this channel as well. So pick which one supports you the most. And of course, thank you for liking, subscribing, and of course, selling with love.